Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, and together with my co-host, Mark Lawrence of Statewide News Service, JBizTechValley.com. And now, as you could see, he is the columnist for the Jewish Press.
Right, I have a column called Albany Beat, and I talk about how government relates to the Jewish community, or doesn't, as the case may be. And speaking of government, we have with us today a return guest, a very special guest, Chris Higgins, who's an Albany County legislator, and he also works in the New York State Senate. So he also knows what's going on behind the scenes as well, but we're not going to talk about that today. Sure. We're going to talk about your role as the Albany County legislator from like the Lark Street area. We'll say that, but there's like 7 different communities and neighborhoods that you take in.
Sure.
So anyway, welcome back to the Jewish View.
Yeah, it's great to be back. It's wonderful to see both of you fine gentlemen on this warm summer evening. There certainly is a lot going on in county business that we can discuss over the next few minutes locally at the county level, pertaining to some of the elections coming up in September and November. Certainly more to cover than we have time.
That's true. That's true. So let me just ask you about the makeup of the county legislature. Apparently, in 2016, we're going to see a lot of new faces. We have a 39-member county legislature, and I think maybe a third of them are leaving.
That many?
I mean, Don Rahm, Justin Corcoran, Sean Morse, who you're probably happy about.
Sure, Tom Cotterfeld,
okay.
Christine Benedict,
right.
Lee Carmen,
right.
Noel Kinch,
right.
Virginia Mafia Tobler.
Right.
Did you say Don
really?
Don Rahm?
Virginia Mafia Tobler's not running.
She's not running. Don Rahm's not running.
Right.
Corcoran you mentioned.
Right.
There's quite a few.
It's going to be a whole different makeup. So.
Yeah.
Well, it's a major turnover on both sides of the aisle, the Democrats and the Republicans.
Well, you only mentioned 2 Republicans, Benedict and Carmen.
Well, there's only 10 of them, so that's 20% of their
20%
caucus.
20% of the caucus, that's true. But there'll be they're safe Republican seats. I mean,
yeah.
Mark Grimm is running for one of them, and
in Guilderland, yep.
For the
and I'm not sure who's running in the Benedict seat out in Colony, but it will be interesting. The Mark Grimm seat will be very interesting. David Cardona is running for that.
Is his father the judge?
That's correct. The late judge.
The late judge.
The late Judge Cardona. He's his son.
Okay.
And so that'll be a very interesting race. I know David has 3 lines. I think he's running with the Democratic line, the Independence line, and the Conservative line. And I think Mark Grimm only has 1 line, the Republican line. Okay. So out of the fusion voting system we have in the state, you accumulate all those results in the various lines. So we'll see how those chips fall after November's election.
So you may pick up, you're hoping that the Democrats may pick up a seat.
Sure. I think there's going to be several contested races throughout the county that are going to be close.
Now you serve on the Law and Civic Center committees.
That's correct.
Okay, 2 separate committees. I didn't mean to put them together.
The Civic Center, the Times Union Center, is actually in my county legislative district.
Right. Now the chair is Don Rahm, and he's not running, so there's a chance that maybe you could move up to chair?
Sure. I was actually the chair of the law committee.
We talked about that
for 2
last
years,
time.
and then I was stripped of that chairmanship after I voted against the budget.
Unceremoniously stripped.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. The following month in January, so 2 years ago. So I was a chairman at one point in time, but not in the last 2 years.
And you also, I got to tell you that on the website they still have Phil Steck listed as a member of the Civic Center committee. So you got to update that.
Sure. Well, it's not a surprise to me, but unfortunately, that's an issue you have to bring up with the leadership.
Well,
they run the offices.
Well, you can bring it up with staff. I'm just telling you that you can tell someone.
That's crazy.
So is there a reason why you're only on 2 committees, or is that the average for a county legislature?
Well, we only have 10 standing committees in the county legislature.
How many are sitting?
So how many?
Fair enough. 10 committees.
Yeah,
okay.
and 39 members. So there's not a lot of opportunities for chairmanships.
No,
right? And because there's so many members, you don't get to serve on a limited amount of these committees.
No, but is that an average amount?
Yes, 2. Every member is assigned 2 committees.
Not more. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
So it makes sense.
It's important for people to know. Yeah.
Oh, certainly. It makes sense for me as a lawyer to sit on the
law committee.
And it makes sense for me as the member who represents the actual area around the TU Center to be on that committee as well. And actually, you'd be surprised, there's a lot of interesting issues that come up that relate to the Civic Center.
Like what?
Well, we've just recently been dealing with an expansion of the Civic Center in conjunction with the construction of the convention center, right? That is something the state wanted to see, was us make some major capital improvements to the TU Center. So,
like the stairs and the escalators, and
that's correct.
And getting the birds out of there and things like that.
So, what we're really going to be doing moving forward with that is enclosing the whole front atrium, adding additional meeting space for some of these major conferences that are going to come into the area that are going to need to utilize both the convention center and also the TU Center. One of the major issues we had in the past with the size of our arena specifically is when we go out to bid for some of these bigger conferences like the NCAA basketball tournament, one of the bigger reasons why we haven't been selected in several years is because those tournaments are so large that we're not equipped, we do not have the space, the meeting space and the hotel space to accommodate so many teams and the fans and all the staff that come with them.
The stadium is just big. I remember when they built it, they said, oh, we can get any major attraction. So there's enough seats there.
It's the capacity is the issue for all the ancillary, all the ancillary things that are associated with running these major sports tournaments.
Right. Now,
so the addition of the meeting space will be very helpful in securing some of those bids in the future.
And so why close off that atrium? I mean, it seems so nice to have it open, and it just doesn't seem right to have it closed off.
Part of it has been because of the elements, in the wind,
yeah,
and the rain,
but
and everything there.
It's nice. It's just, so what?
And again,
this is Albany.
give the TU Center a refresher, almost like a facelift to modernize the facility. I mean, it's been over 20 years since it was constructed. I believe construction was finished in 1994. So. We've had over the years to fix the roof. We've had to update the screens, the seating, the HVAC system. So now we're trying to look to give the arena a facelift to accommodate, the convention center, which is going to be a brand new building.
But didn't you like the openness and the way it looked from the street?
I personally don't have a problem with it, but from a design,
from an aesthetic standpoint.
Yeah, I personally don't have a problem with it. But I could see, after 20 years, everybody likes a little remodel, whether it's in their personal house or
That's true, but
something.
why enclose? Why have that as the choice to enclose
well,
it?
I think
that's what I didn't like.
The idea is to make that space warmer so that you can use it for these bigger shows.
Well, I got to tell you, there's a big show called Kosher Fest that's held down in the Meadowlands.
Wow.
And I tried to get them to come up here to have their show here, and they looked at the square footage, and they still couldn't fit it.
Well, there you go. See, this is a perfect example of hopefully this...
No, even with the new convention center
and
the
TU
hotel
Center
and the TU Center, they still couldn't hold it.
Wow.
And I had the folks from the Albany County Convention Visitors Bureau, scope it out and talk to the folks, and I was personally shepherding this. Hopefully we could have had this. And they just said it'd be such a tight squeeze, it would be uncomfortable.
Wow, that's interesting. But that just goes to show you, even some events, we're not going to have a space large enough to accommodate them.
That's right.
That's a good example.
I want to tell you something, that you should go to Gavin Donahue and you should pitch for a kosher kitchen in the Civic Center, or in the new convention center, or wherever you can fit a kosher kitchen, because there's really no place to have a nice reception for a bar mitzvah or a wedding, and with the gorgeous chandeliers and all the everything else that goes along with it, and we just don't have a place in Albany for that. So everyone goes down to Rockland County, Orange County, New York City to have their weddings, bar mitzvahs, and they really don't have, or they just have a sort of a less than desirable event up here. Okay, so you need a kosher kitchen, and Gavin had said, well, we kind of looked at it, and it was cost, it was this. You know what? I didn't buy it, because when you bond it and you spread it out, it doesn't add that much more to the cost. So if you could be our advocate, I got you here. I just thought I'd tell you to maybe see what you could, what magic you could work on this.
Sure,
okay?
I could certainly bring it up.
Okay.
Never hurts to bring it up as an issue.
All right. Say, oh, he's at it again. No, that's okay. So are you, talking about the new faces in the county legislature, are you optimistic that that there's going to be a more effective and efficient county legislature with new people? I mean, you rise dramatically in seniority, and you've only been there 2 terms.
Sure. Well, it's a very interesting question you raise about how the legislature functions as an independent body, separate from the executive,
right?
And some of the priorities that I think the members want to push moving forward, and fundamentally maybe reforming the way that business is done down there.
Right.
I think those are some issues that you'll see come out in some of these legislative campaigns. One only has to look at the recent debacle surrounding settlement of the federal voting rights lawsuit to create a 5th majority minority district in the city. I mean, this was a disaster. I think any person who lives in the county would tell you that. I think many of the members would agree.
Well, my firm was hired in 2003 to do the redistricting. So I was part of that disaster.
Sure.
So I'll admit that, but basically I got to tell you, we were told this is the way we want these districts to be. And when we met with each of the legislators to find out, they were really specific. They wanted this block. I don't want this block because someone lives there I don't like. Or I want this block because I have a lot more votes on this block. Yeah. And they were really, every county legislator knew to the nth degree their district and where they wanted those lines to be.
Sure.
And it was almost a nightmare, So I'm just letting you know that, it's sometimes it's not the fault of the demographer, but it's the fault of the staff and the council and the people behind the scenes.
Well, I mean, just going back to what you were saying, that's a perfect example of an issue that could have been handled well, I think, from the leadership from the top down, that really as a result, we could have settled this lawsuit, we could have settled it weeks before it went to trial.
Right.
We lost the trial, now we're on the hook for potentially millions of dollars in litigation fees to the plaintiff's attorneys. I don't think they will be millions of dollars, but at the same point, it never should have gotten that far to begin with.
Right.
And, that's an issue that's going to come out in these campaigns.
Is that a reason why Virginia Mafia-Tobler's not running? Because she was a white legislator in a black district? And
I can't speak to why she's not running.
She didn't talk to you about
I don't know.
this?
I mean, I know that's going to be a primary over there. There's a Kathy Schmitz-Morf, who's a white woman, is running, and Wanda Willingham is running in that district, which is a majority-minority district. So that will be a contested race, and we'll have to see how things shake out in September after the primaries are over.
Mark, just talking about your district, I mean, Lark Street, Lark Street is your district. Yeah. Troy is being built up. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, because I don't live down there, of course, but it seems like it's more stagnant. I mean, Lark Street could be like a mini Manhattan, just
a mini village, East Village.
A mini village, that would be
Village,
it. That would be better.
Sure. Well, that's our nickname. We call ourselves the village in the city.
Right.
Yeah. But it seems like it's not growing. It's just.
Yeah, I mean, you've got storefronts empty with the Johns pulling out 3 businesses, and you got other storefronts. You do have the new building going up on the corner of Lark and Madison, but you got Key Bank on the corner of Lark and Washington closing up, I think, or closed up. So you got some eyesores along there. What are you doing about it, Chris?
I like to say for every step forward we take, unfortunately, I feel like we take 2 steps backwards. We just recently opened up a new coffee shop on Lark Street. It's called The Breaks. Great, another small business, very popular in the neighborhood. And then what happens, we get news that a corporate client, KeyBank, wants to pull out of their location on Washington Avenue right around the corner. So I mean, it's tough news. And then trying to get businesses to invest in these in these properties, which are located in residential neighborhoods, is not always the easiest thing in the world to do. We do have 2 properties that you mentioned, DeJean's and Legends. They were formerly owned. The bank foreclosed on them, and now they're listed for sale. I'm hopeful those are going to sell in the coming weeks, and they'll be renovated.
It's not that the bank foreclosed. It was that DeJean pulled out because the neighborhood was upset with the noise coming from there.
Well, he actually didn't pay the mortgages for several years, and the bank bought the properties back at auction for the amount of money that was owed on the notes.
Okay.
So they own them now. They're marketing them. I know they have a professional realtor trying to market them, and hopefully we'll get some new businesses in there.
Now, let me ask you, there's a business improvement district on Lark Street.
Yes.
Okay, called the BID, Lark Street BID.
Yep.
They've had a huge turnover in leadership on the executive director level for the past 10 years, every 3 years or so. I mean, you just can't, you know, it's too much. It's, you know, they can't retain someone long enough.
Yeah. I mean,
So can you do something about that as a county legislator? I mean, just a member of the community?
Yeah.
And not that the legislature itself, but as a legislator
Yeah.
and a prominent member of the community, is there something you could do?
So the issue with the bid is it's the smallest, there's only 3 business improvement districts in the city. Central Avenue, Downtown, and Lark Street.
Okay.
And it is by far and large the smallest bid with an operating budget out of all 3. Central Avenue has nearly $1 million budget. We're talking about the Lark Street bid that has a budget of $85,000. And it's not a lot of money to move forward with some of the major initiatives that I think neighbors and residents and other businesses would want to see. You know, just some of the smallest things that they need to contract out for, like watering flowers costs, you know, a couple $1,000s, you know, holding concert series in Dana Park, which has been ongoing every Monday night
Right.
now. These things cost money.
Yeah.
And I think they've turned themselves around in the last year or two, but as anything in government, there's always more work to be done.
Well,
You know, the city has been far more responsive, I think, to the neighborhoods I represent in the Lark Street corridor, which has been a very pleasant surprise. And, you know, hopefully we can get some tenants into some of these buildings. And,
Is
you know,
so who's the executive director now of the Lark Street bid?
Shauna Collins.
Sean Collins.
Shauna. It's a
Shauna,
woman.
it's a
Yep.
woman, okay.
So-
So we're gonna try to get her on the show.
Sure,
And if
sure.
I have any trouble, I'm gonna call you. Maybe you have an insight to.
Yeah, I'll see what I
okay?
can do for you.
Okay,
What's
thanks.
the level of crime, though, in that area? Maybe that's a turnoff to some people.
Well,
I mean, I don't know
you know,
the
I mean,
statistics.
it's like any other part in the city. You know, the new chief and the previous chief, Krokoff, Steve
Right.
Krokoff, they've been very responsive to needs in the community. You know, we do have a strong presence with the community policing,
Right.
which has been a pleasant surprise to see these beat cops and bike cops in and around not just the Lark Street corridor, but also in some of the residential streets,
Yeah, right.
which is great. You know, we had a very successful National Night Out event at the Hudson J Turnaround Park. Probably had 60 local neighbors out, so that was very nice. You know,
60
probably 60, yeah.
out of a few hundred in the, or 1,000 in the.
Oh yeah, but that's more than some of the other major
Really?
neighborhoods that are more densely populated.
Okay.
So
all right.
it was a great event. you
Now,
know.
let me ask you, does your district go up Washington Avenue to like Henry Johnson Boulevard?
So my district,
Does it go up there?
yeah, it
Okay.
goes
So
up.
we have a new kosher restaurant, Terra,
Yes,
Okay.
I don't have Terra. That's in the minority district now.
who's the
Merton
county
Simpson.
legislator?
Merton.
Mert Simpson?
Well, as of next year,
Right.
in 2016, because the lines had to be redrawn.
Okay, but was your district?
Yes, it
Okay.
was. Yep.
So it's right on the border?
Yes, that's correct. It's-
Okay,
it's right
so
on
you
the
should
border.
still go over. I'm going
Sure.
to make a pitch for you to still go over to Terra, and I'll take you over. It's a wonderful kosher restaurant. It's
Sure.
got Indian cuisine and other Mediterranean cuisine also.
Yeah, see, if I had my druthers, I'd make a pitch to actually expand the business improvement district to come around the corner
Yeah.
and pick in some of those restaurants like Terra and Umana and Mamoon's.
Right.
Those are businesses that I think could greatly benefit from traffic on the Lark Street corridor if people were aware that if you just turn the corner, there's some great little establishments
Right.
with wonderful food.
So, okay, well, that's something to look forward to. I mean,
Sure.
is it on the Central Avenue? It's not the
No,
Central Avenue.
it's
bid.
in no man's land.
It's in no man's land.
That's the problem.
So that's why Lark Street can simply pick it up, the
Yeah.
Lark Street bid.
Absolutely.
So they could just claim it. Who's going to fight them for it?
No.
I mean, why? I mean, can't
well,
they just claim it? I
They don't
mean,
pay any taxes, so the argument would be, why should they get services if they don't pay any bid
Who
taxes?
doesn't?
Those restaurants
there's-
when you come around the corner onto Washington.
Oh,
Avenue.
there's a
There's a
fee.
business improvement tax levied on the businesses in each respective district,
Who levies the tax?
the city,
And where does the money go? To the bid?
to the bids.
Oh, okay.
That's why Central and Downtown have such big operating budgets, because their taxable basis for their bids is much larger.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's good to know. Let's see. Are you happy to see Sean Morse leave the county legislature since you had this run-in with him and you were unceremoniously?
You know, Sean and I disagree on a variety of different matters, but he's always been somebody that you could talk to one-on-one.
Who's going to be running for his seat? For not co-host, I mean for
chairmanship?
the chairmanship.
I think it remains to be seen.
Who do you think? Do you have the inside track? Are you going to be doing?
I don't think I have the inside track on anything.
You've been a very effective county legislator.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I've tried.
I mean, Metroland did say you were the best local legislator.
Well, I take the job very seriously.
You do.
I mean, when you represent thousands of individuals, they put their trust into you to, advocate on their behalf.
So why not you put your hat in the ring for chairman?
Well, one thing at a time here. I have to focus on my own election. I have a campaign in November, so I'm taking that very seriously.
Oh, please. That's not, you don't have an opponent.
Well,
you have someone opposing you, but you don't have a serious opponent. So I'm just letting you know. I mean, is there a reason why you wouldn't want it or would want it? Or
it's a tremendous amount of responsibility. It's a lot of work. It's something I haven't consideed.
Raise your profile. I mean, you didn't put your hat in the ring for the assembly seat.
Well, we saw how that turned out.
Well, we did, but that's those are 4 towns.
Sure.
And I was just saying, chairmanship that gives you a higher profile throughout the county.
Yeah, I mean,
and you do have ambitions. You're young and.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. I just turned 35 a few months ago, and I'm actually the youngest member of that body.
Of the county legislature.
Yeah, what does that tell you?
Wow.
At 35. I did get elected when I was 27 at the time, myself and Ryan Horsemeyer. I think I was 27, Ryan was 26 or 25. But I mean, there's some major issues that need to be looked at. We have never put a person of color in leadership. We have never put a woman in leadership. This is the 21st century we're talking about now.
So what? So someone should be put in leadership not based on color or gender, but based on qualifications.
Well, I think they offer different perspectives on a variety of different things.
Yeah,
and
but you shouldn't put someone in leadership just because they're Jewish, Irish, Catholic, Irish, or Italian.
They should qualify. I think there's several qualified women and members of color that would make excellent leaders in the county legislature. I think Lucy McKnight would be very good. I think Virginia Tobler would have been good, but she's not running again. I think Noelle Kinch would have been very good.
Right. Well, okay.
I think Allison McLean Lane would be very good.
But she's a freshman, and
Sure. But I don't think. Oftentimes, the county legislature is not like the state legislature where seniority necessarily dictates.
But it shows that you still need to get to be more familiar with all the issues than just one term.
Sure.
So I would say that, I mean, Gil Ethier is too old. He's been there for 35 years.
Sure.
And, I'd say that he's not.
You got Mark's vote. That's the bottom line.
So who do you think should it be someone from the suburbs, or would it be someone from the city? Does that factor into it?
It's so premature to even discuss it, really, because there's going to be a lot of changeover, like we discussed at the beginning of the show, and
which narrows down the field of who might be eligible.
Well, at the end of the day, it's all about who can get the support of the members, the rank and file members, and if you don't know who the rank and file members are, it's hard to create some sort of a strategy for how you're going to go about winning that support when you don't even know who's going to be sitting in the chairs.
I'm not getting an answer from him. Okay.
Good politics.
Let me ask you quickly about the land bank.
Sure.
Where do we go from here? What are we doing now?
The land bank is probably my biggest and best accomplishment this term, and perhaps my whole career in the legislature.
Okay, so where do we go from here?
They are up and running. They have.
Why don't you explain what the land bank is for our viewers? I mean,
sure.
I don't even know, and so.
So the land bank, there's
the viewers don't know either.
Sure, there's 10 land banks that are authorized to operate. They're not-for-profit local development corporations that state legislation allows for. Albany County created 2 years ago via legislation we passed an actual application to create a local development.
That you sponsored?
Yes. We had a huge fight over for 2 years, and we finally got our act together, Frank and I, and...
Frank Comissa.
Yes.
Right, majority leader.
Yep, had a meeting of the minds, and finally we're able to push this legislation through jointly. So the land bank, the goal of the land bank is to take in vacant and blighted properties, and irregular properties, rehabilitate them, and offer them on the private market for sale to prospective owners. After an application screening process. And it's really the goal here is for the county, which forecloses on these properties countywide, to turn many of them over to the land bank, which will then use the tools they have to screen applicants, either rehab or clean up these properties, remediate them if there's asbestos or other environmental issues, and then offer them in the private market for sale. And actually, they have a variety. They've got almost 100 properties now in their possession that they're in the property of remediating, and some are going to be demolished. They've actually sold a couple of properties already. They have a very robust side lot program. So, for example, if you lived in a city on Clinton Avenue and there was a vacant lot that the land bank had next to you, they would approach you as a landowner and ask you, Rabbi, are you interested in this property? We're willing to sell it to you for pennies on the dollar, but you have to agree that you will merge it into your property on your deed, on your tax map for the city, that you'll take care of it, and pay the taxes on it, and there's a right of reverter to the land bank if you don't. And it's those types of steps that we're trying to implement so that we can get out of this circle of blight. And
we're on the Jewish View, so I'm not a lawyer, I'm a rabbi, but rabbi, we in the Talmud, they cover really all subjects. And one of the subjects are students' Maimonides, and I think maybe you should be able to talk to them, is about, it's called in Hebrew, bar meitzer, that who has precedence to buy a property is someone who's next door.
So that's the concept here.
Can they have a guest speaker at the day school and talk to our high school children about how it's in, because sometimes you read in Talmud, it's ancient, even if these are Jewish kids, but really, that's something that's relevant today in today's day and age.
Yeah, no,
the same concept.
It is. But that's the type of work that the land bank is doing. Now, the county has committed $1 million over last year and this year to helping the land bank get up on its feet. I'll be pushing the budget process moving forward this year for next year's fiscal plan for an additional amount of $500,000 for the land bank to keep them moving until we manage to figure out, a tax sharing formula for them so that they can be self-sufficient.
Okay.
But they're making tremendous progress, and everything is transparent. All that information is on their website. If you Google Albany County Land Bank, you can see the minutes, the resolutions, the disposition plans, where the properties are located.
We'll do that.
It's wonderful stuff.
All right. I got to ask you quickly, and we're running out of time, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
Are you in favor of downsizing the county legislature? To what number?
25.
25
That's
members.
The number that the Charter Revision Commission supported.
Isn't that a moot point? They voted on it already.
Well, I just still wanted to get him on the record as to see how he feels about it.
I voted to downsize it to 29, which was the proposal, but I would have gone even lower to 25.
25, okay. And what about oil trains?
I don't support oil trains. I think the amount of crude oil that's coming through the Port of Albany, really, when you start looking at it, is tremendous. The increase in shipments. We've had several issues down there already where there have been spills, albeit they've been minor spills, but spills nonetheless. The county hasn't been notified on time. We're pushing a local law now.
All right, what about ride-sharing legislation?
I sponsored a resolution to call on the state legislature to pass that. I think it's
what is ride-sharing legislation? Is that like Uber or
Yeah,
something?
that's exactly what it is. So, the state...
So if you need a car, you call up and you say, come get me or something?
Well, it's a mobile app that you download onto your smartphone, and it's a ride-sharing program. You open up the app, it locates where you are through GPS in your phone, and you can actually see where there's taxi drivers around you, Uber drivers, and you hail a cab. And the beauty about Uber is it's a completely cashless, or Lyft, these ride-sharing companies, they're completely cashless systems. Right, so no money is transacted, which makes it safer.
So it's like someone would go on the app, and if I was an Uber driver, then I would know that they need some. But what if 2 or 3 cars all show up?
You get the closest one.
You just get the closest one.
Well, if you don't like your driver, you can flag them and go to the next. But all the drivers are rated at the end of the ride. And the way this works is if the drivers that get worse reviews drop to the bottom, and the drivers with the better reviews move to the top.
I see.
So that's ideally what you want to get.
Well, again, we're getting into more social, not electronic, but more sophisticated ways of doing this. You don't have to pick up a phone. Yeah, communicating, and you don't have to pick up a phone. So this segues into my next topic I want to ask you about, which is social media and how that helps you in your campaign, or as a county legislator, or is it a hindrance where you might get too much information and you're just like rolling your head and saying, "Oh my goodness,
Well,
I can't handle all
this
this."
is the information age, right? So, I mean, everybody's used to being bombarded constantly with information, whether it's through Twitter, Facebook,
Right.
email,
And you use it all.
television. Oh yeah, absolutely, right off my phone.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great way to communicate with your constituents. You can provide up to the minute, up to the second updates on what's going on. Twitter and Facebook I use quite often to give updates on what's going on in the community, if there's a fire or a car accident.
Including when you see Kim Kardashian.
Or a special
Yeah.
event. Sure, well, that's an
big
important
news.
That's
That's
big
big
news.
news.
Kim Kardashian comes
Here's
to
Kim
Albany County.
Kardashian. She's here at the Times Union Center.
And that got retweeted by a bunch of radio stations.
did.
It
Yes,
got
it
picked
did.
up,
So
and they
there
had
you
a
go.
whole conversation about it the next morning. But it's a way to communicate, and it's amazing to me how many constituents I have who are now my Facebook friends,
Yes.
or I follow them on Twitter, or they follow me, that are using social media as well. It's a free or incredibly
Pretty soon there's going to be a
inexpensive-
law that says, "Don't follow me, you're harassing me."
Yeah.
Even social media.
But it's a way to communicate with
Yes.
folks that's far cheaper than how you could communicate with constituents 30 years ago or 40 years ago. Now,
It's a new way.
in-
And you're riding the new wave of communication.
Yeah, absolutely.
there.
He's the future.
I think I
Youngest
maintain
man in the
Legislature.
I maintain my own website, votechrishiggins.com. Anybody can go there. I
That's right.
upload all the resolutions I write, all the local laws I write, anything that I'm working on. My Twitter feed is right there on my website.
I had no trouble
Press
finding out what you were
releases.
doing.
Yeah, it all goes
Or
up
not
on the
doing.
web. I mean, I have nothing to
Good.
hide, and the more
Right.
information I can provide to my constituents to show them how hard I'm working on a variety of different issues.
How
I
much
think,
money do you have to raise to run for county legislature? In a few seconds we have left, approximately.
primary, depending on where you are in the
No,
city.
just how much does it? No, is your 50,000, 10,000?
Oh, maybe $5,000 to $10,000.
That's it. Okay, that's
it
what
doesn't
I'm-
have to be a lot.
So you could self-finance your campaign at that point.
Sure, and you see that happening right now. Dan Egan, who's running for the county executive, he's
Yeah.
pumped nearly $50,000 of his own money into that race, and
Okay.
I
Maybe
mean,
his father's money. I don't know, but yeah.
I don't know,
His family money.
that's an issue.
Okay.
That's a big issue.
That's it. All right. So
Oh.
we're always, when you're having a good time, time flies.
Yeah, it really does.
So we wish you the best of success. You had a lot of success, even more success in the future, and continue on the good work you're doing for the Albany County.
Of
Much
course.
success.
Thank
Okay,
Thank you very
Chris, all the
much.
best of success.
Thank you.